will call us. We will manage to get to him. He will speak to us, and we also want to interest him, or he wants to interest us with some other colleagues who are actually there, who are attending this event. People also need to know that away from these artificial borders that we have, we have Bagisu in Uganda and the Babukusu the other side of Kenya, and actually the Umkuka doubles for both the Bagisu in Uganda and the Bukusu in Kenya, and we told that some prominent figures from Kenya have actually crossed over. They've come to attend the burial over their Umkuka. What do you have to say about that to start with?
Well, this is one event, of course, may his soul rest in peace, but that actually shows that the artificial borders we have, we need to demystify them, and because ideally we see that they are more Bagiso or the Bamasava on the other side of Kenya. And one thing that is very important is that every other time they are having cultural function, especially like when they are launching the Mbale, they all come together because they are the same people. It's just like we have the Emorimori, who also stretches up to Teso district in Kenya. So this is a clear indication that whoever dreamt of the East African community, whoever is dreaming of the East African Federation is actually having a good dream. Yes, because we are actually the same people, and we can always come together, work together for our own prosperity. Okay.
Well, just before Mututa gets to us or joins us, we had promised that we'll talk about the Kenyan Building the Bridges initiative, which we know that comes out of, or its background is from the 2017 presidential elections. That we saw had a lot of challenges because for the first time in history, actually on the continent of Africa, where an election was actually taken to court and court nullified the election thereafter. It happened in Kenya, and we all were here to see what happened in Kenya. And the next things were, what do we see come out of Kenya, or where is Kenya's way forward now? From the so many events that kept happening, we got to see the BBI come on. Now the BBI follows a handshake that the two principals, President Uhuru Kenyatta and opposition leader Raila Amolo Odinga, had in March 2018, and out of that they decided to look at 9 very pertinent issues for a united Kenya, and for a Kenya for those who are in Kenya today and those who will be in Kenya tomorrow. So they decided to make an inclusive, an all-inclusive Kenya for all of them, and to bury the hatchets and do all the things and foster a way forward. That is where we are now. Coming back to Uganda, before we actually delve into the BBI, when you come to Uganda, we just concluded an election, and out of this election, of course, like all other elections happen, there are always issues. In the United States, Trump was saying, you know, I won. You know, you're taking oath of office, but you know I won. You know, they kept insisting. My 70 million people know that we actually won the election. Now, normal elections have these emotions. In Uganda here, you've never had an election where somebody loses and says, yes, we've honorably lost this election to whoever won the election. Now, you hear these voices. Now the clergy are coming out to ask the president for reconciliation. The president the other day said, I'm also open to reconciliation, and quite a number of discussions here. Do we think that Kenya's BBI is actually an African solution now to many of our problems that keep coming, especially after elections?
Yes, I think Kenya's BBI is a solution to Africa's divisive politics, politics that actually dominated by ethnicity and religion, where neither do the religious affiliations. I think it becomes a very, very serious tool to unite the continent. But that can only be achieved if the Building Bridges initiative is given a holistic approach. It is not looking at giving jobs for the political actors. It's not created, it's not, in other words, the background should not be to appease. Yes, to appease those who are sour graping, to appease those who have lost elections, or perhaps to consolidate the win of those who have won. Because this is not actually, I think they are just changing names, but it's not the first time we are seeing such an effort. Especially, let's look at Kenya. In 2007, after that election that had issues.
The Samuel Kivuta election.
Yes, the Samuel the ECK, the Electoral Commission of Kenya, and Samuel Kivuta. After that announcement that plunged Kenya into violence and chaos.
And thousands of people died.
And very many people died. We saw eminent Africans coming in. We had the late Kofi Annan, the late Benjamin Mkapa, John Kufuor. They all came in. Actually, even
our own President Museveni,
Grace Machel, even our very own President Yoweri Museveni, they came in. So look here, what is happening? Because Kenya is actually one of the...
It's an anchor state in Africa.
Yes.
It's an anchor state.
It paralyzed actually business in Eastern Central, because ideally very many countries depend on the Mombasa port for their imports and exports as well. So after that elections, there was need for these people, the principals, that is Mwai Kibaki and Raila Odinga, to come together. So they came up with the Grand Coalition Government. But still, the background of the Grand Coalition Government is what they call the Kenya National Dialogue and Reconciliation. So they came up with the Kenya National Dialogue and Reconciliation, and which was actually anchored on 4 main pillars. Because one was to end the immediate crisis, and the immediate crisis was creation of a coalition government, so they can bring everybody on board. Now the other was constitutional
amendment
and legal reforms,
which actually did successfully in 2010. They did that in 2010, and they adopted the promulgated another constitution.
But there were other issues that actually are not paid attention to. Issues of land. Yes, issues of land were actually not paid attention to. Issues of corruption were not paid attention to. Issues of the common mwananchi, the Kenyans call him Wanjiku. The issues of Wanjiku were also not addressed.
But now many of those have actually been incorporated in the BBI, but because I think they're looking at the reconciliation, the Kenya National Dialogue and Reconciliation Initiative, that possibly never materialized, because we saw that out of that, well, they had that two-step principal government, where the late Kibaki had his own people that he could appoint to cabinet, and this other side, he also had another prime minister who would also equally had similar powers. Now you had a government which virtually had two principals, two principal heads. Now, when they went into that constitution reform, they decided to do a lot of things, and that's actually how their election was, I think, pushed to 2013. Now, in that election, you saw how the marriages were formed. You had Uhuru Kenyatta come on with his TNA, and you also had William Ruto coming with his URP. And now, the URP and the TNA formed an alliance, which they call Jubilee Alliance, against now the Orange Democracy Alliance that the other people saw. Now, but at the end of the day, now when you look at the BBI here, it's anchored on 9 major issues. Now, corruption is one of those. Inclusiveness is another. They talk about devolution of powers. That's also another. And you talk about creating positions. But don't you think that when you look at the corruption bit of it in this particular BBI, which also now has a lot of constitutional amendment reforms or suggestions or proposals in there, will it give Kenyans a way forward?
No, Kenya, just like Uganda, they are not falling short of institutions that can fight corruption. What is actually lacking is the political will and commitment. That is what is lacking. Just like here in Uganda, the political will and the commitment is what is actually lacking. But in terms of institutions, we have enough institutions that can actually stamp out corruption. Just like in Kenya, they just have the same. But I just want to go back to the issue. When you look at the 9 key areas, actually those 9 key areas, just a duplication of the Kenya National Dialogue and Reconciliation. Because if that had been followed, I think they wouldn't be here. And still you're saying, yes, the BBI is not about... when you look at why William Ruto is actually opposing the BBI, in his mind...
Did he support the Constitution in 2010?
No, he didn't.
He still didn't. William Ruto has also been known for not supporting...
But he's not alone. You have the likes of Martha Karua, who are also actually opposing. You have the likes of Moses Kuria.
Yes, exactly.
They are also opposing the BBI.
Politicians are opposing
and why they are opposing the BBI...
Professor Loch Lumumba is actually also one of those
opposing the BBI. But why they are opposing the BBI? Ruto and his followers, they believe that this is a ploy to block him from ascending to presidency. He says, look here, our agreement was I support you for 10 years, 2 terms, then I come in, naturally. So that is what he's saying. And also, Odinga's elder brother, Oburu Odinga, says that the BBI is about helping Odinga become the next president of Kenya. And on the other hand, they say, okay, look here, yes, the BBI is about securing the future of the Kikuyu in the post-Kenyatta era. So now, you find that when you still have those that kind of talk, it actually washes away the good intention.
Well, if it's still anchored on such sentiments, then can it be an African template? Can it be a solution to African problems? Because once you bring a similar BBI, now let's say like BBI for Uganda, because there's nothing in BBI called Kenya. It is just building the bridges initiative. Yes. Now that means whatever bridges are broken, we need to have an initiative that builds these bridges. So if the Kenyan BBI is actually anchored on these sentiments of they're throwing me out, killing an agreement that we had earlier, then the other side, there is somebody who is saying it is actually now our time to get there. Then there is another quarter that is saying we need to find somebody who shall actually protect our wealth and you know, all these things. So if these are the sentiments attached to the BBI, then can we actually duplicate that for Uganda, or won't we have similar issues?
No, what normally, you see, the most unfortunate part is that actually what is written is not what is actually practiced. Because when you look at the document, the BBI, definitely one would be a fool to really oppose it. But again, you look at what is the spirit behind that. That is what we question. So what is the spirit behind the BBI? So ideally, the way it was done, we can say that is good for Africa. Like President Yoweri Museveni has said, he does not want foreign mediators. He knows where to find the opposition. And the opposition knows where to find him. That is what happened, because Uhuru called his friend Raila Odinga. They met after a discussion of I think a day. They addressed the people, called it a handshake, and that changed the narrative in Kenya. Yes, because people thought that now Uhuru was going to have hard time in his second term. Now things actually turn the other way around. So it's the same thing here that can be done. But the other issue, is that every other time we are seeing those efforts, ideally they don't go beyond the principles. They don't go beyond the key players. They don't bring along their people. They don't bring along the entire Mwananchi. Just give you an example in South Africa, when Nelson Mandela comes in as president. Of course, he formed the Rainbow Nation. He brings everybody on board. But bringing everybody on board, he did not bring the common person. What the Zulu call umuntu uvamile, the common person was left out. So when the common person was left out, remember during the apartheid time, the Africans did not go to school, they did not access opportunities, they lived in the ghettos. So their situation was not addressed. 10 years, 20 years down the road, what is happening now is the xenophobia. Because now these people say, look here, we were fighting the whites. Now you the makwerikweri. Makwerikweri is a term given to Africans who are non-South Africans living in this. So they say, now you people, you are now coming to take our jobs. Now, but the question is, just look here, you do not have the skills. That is what government is saying. So Nelson Mandela, after that, after the reconciliation, I think there was a step that was missed, that they needed to have empowered. Say, look here, now yes, this has been achieved, but we also need to bring the other person on the high table. And that is now the problem. Because still the same thing in Kenya. In 2007, 2008, the two principles came together. They shared power. When they shared power, but there are issues that were not resolved. The land issue, the ethnic antagonism and competition,
devolution itself, because when you look at Kenya's political administration, when you look at their political administration, their local governance administration, it's much vibrant as opposed to possibly what we actually have here when you look at their setting. But still, this is actually not answering the question. This is not giving them solutions to that. This still leaves them with challenges embedded in there. Now you'll notice that when they set out the committee for the BBI to solicit for views, recommendations, and opinions from the different stakeholders. They moved to all the 47 counties of Kenya. They went, but of course with some resistance, like you're saying. Now you have the other side, Dr. Samoei Ruto, who says this is a ploy to actually curtail me. Now Martha Karua, who contested against Ruto in 2013, and several others are saying no, this is not the way to go. Now when you look at the NASA team with Raila Odinga, they are up in arms. On the 27th of November, when they were actually unveiling this to the public at the Bomas of Kenya, all of them came. And when the president was actually addressing the nation there, he said, all of us have made these mistakes. All of us have played this politics of division, politics of ethnicity, politics of, like a man who has actually now grown and, you know, he's looked at a country and said, no, it can't be we actually who can leave this country into flames. We need to force a way forward now. When you look at it, when you get to their speeches, actually, because I attended that event, I watched it on TV live from when it started and ended, and all of them, you could see Kenya at heart. You could see Kenya at heart playing out. But of course, thereafter, different voices are coming on. I was hearing an interview that was done by the former Chief Justice, William Mutungi, who also looks at this thing as, because remember, William Mutungi also had a case before him in 2013, when Raila Odinga still went to court to say, no, this election was not free and fair to me. Now, William Mutungi was there. Remember, you had just come from a post-election violence that killed scores of people. You are now the Chief Justice. Another election has come on, and then somebody is coming to court to contest it, actually. You're just trying the Constitution for the first time because they had just had the Constitution for 3 years. For 3 years, yes. And because they benchmarked and you know, studied the Ugandan Constitution, they looked at what we do here, and then they said, no, you can't redo an election in 21 days or in just a couple of days. You need about 60 days to redo this. William Mutungi looked at it and said, no, we can't take that path. So when you hear voices like William Mutungi all looking at the BBI as a good thing to move, to push, to go forth with, but when you also hear scholars like Professor Piol Olumumba and the others saying, no, you know, the BBI is a trap of a few people to actually get there. It brings all these worries that when you come to Uganda, for example, we've tried to forge alliances at the opposition, even after elections. You remember in 2006, President Museveni at State House met the late Sebana Chisto now, met Bedwanika, met Mama Media Kaliobote, met, these are the people who were in that election. The only person who didn't attend was Dr. Kiza Besje. And they talked. And all of them was actually reviewing that video last night. And all of them were actually saying, this is the time that we waited for. You know, we waited for such a moment like this. Now, we had it in 2006. 10 years later, we're still demanding and talking about reconciliation, coming together and all these things. These alliances in our African settings, especially that come on after elections, are they anything to go by?
No, the alliances bring on board people who want to get to power. Just like everywhere, the alliances are not built on the need to empower the common person. I think that is why PLO Lumumba is actually saying, no, look here. Yes, the idea is very good of the BBI, but now the spirit, the principles pushing it have another agenda. You know, in the African politics is so funny in the sense that what is actually written is far from what is done. Actually, the African politics are driven on the unspoken and unwritten terms. Yes. So yes, it is prima facie BBI, but what are the unspoken and unwritten terms that are between the principles, are between the communities? That is what matters. That is the biggest issue. We've had a conflict in South Sudan. We had a conflict in South Sudan. It's just you'll bring Riek Machar and say, look here, you have to get back to government. But is that sorting out the issues in South Sudan? Of
the Dinka and the Nuer.
The Dinka, and not only the Nuer, and the rest of the country. Yes, and the rest of the country. Because the question there is Dinkalization of South Sudan. That is what the others are opposing. Say, look here, when we were fighting, it was not for
all South Sudanese.
All South Sudanese. So these are some of the issues. this is the same situation Joshua Nkoma found himself in Zimbabwe. Because after in 1989, when he agrees to come back and reconcile and reconcile with Mugabe, then ZAPU and ZANU merged to form ZANU-PF. Yes, but when they formed ZANU-PF, they create a position for him, the second vice president. But the question is, has that addressed the issues of the Mbale? Has it addressed the Gukurahundi massacres? Has it addressed the issues of nationalization of Zimbabwe? So has it addressed the issue of land? So these are issues that are always left out. And how I wish that whenever such reconciliations are brought on board, then they should carry along this, so that it is seen that it is not only creating positions for people, but it is also addressing these concerns that actually...
do the people, the Wananchi, for example, when you get back to Kenya, you'll notice that Kenya's election is more of an ethnic election. Yes. That you look at Raila Odinga's 6 million Luo and the other allies. The Luo, exactly. Yes. And they look at themselves that we are this many, but if Raila Odinga is actually not there, then all of us actually not there. Now, for example, they are talking about a position they're suggesting a position which is the Prime Minister's position.
A powerful Prime Minister.
A very powerful Prime Minister.
A hybrid.
Exactly. Yes. Where the Prime Minister now doubles both for the legislature and also for the executive. Now, just looking at that and several other things in here, we just told that Comrade Mututa James is actually online for us. Mututa. Hello, Mututa. Can you hear us?
No.
Yeah, Mututa, can you hear us?
Yeah, I'm hearing you, but the rain is very bad.
It's raining in Mbale.
Hello?
Is it raining in Mbale where you are now?
Yeah, as we speak, at St. Andrew's Cathedral.
Yes.
In Mbale.
Yes.
Where Requiem service is supposed to from now.
Yes.
For the late Mukuka Webama Saba, Bob Muskor II. Already the team arriving and the viewers, people who are attending this service are attending on invitation.
Okay.
For a purpose of avoiding the crowd given the COVID situation in the country.
Yes.
So many people that wish to attend, but only a few are attending to reduce on the numbers. The service will be taking on any time from now, and after the church, the body will be taken to Duda for burial tomorrow.
Okay. So who are expecting from the central government? For example, the Chief Mona and quite a number of people who are coming. Who are you expecting?
The line is not clear. Nonetheless, picking a few things. Talking about the Chief Mona, the president has been invited as the Chief Mona, but I'm aware that he will not be attending in person, but there will be a representative of government who will be attending, and this particular case, I think it will be the Minister for Energy who will be representing the president and the government, but also there will be the minister responsible for the ministry that is responsible for chiefdomship and kingdomship in this country, and in case that will be Honorable Mtuzo. But at the same time, you know, the Umfuka of Ramasaba had an institution which cuts across two countries, that is Uganda and Kenya.
Exactly,
so
exactly, Mtuta, and that's very important for us. We want to know whether there are some delegations or there is a delegation that has come from across the borders in Kenya to also come and participate in sending off their umukuka.
Yeah, as we speak, there's another delegation on where we are expecting the governor of governors, because you know this particular kingdom takes three governorships from Kenya. That is Trans Nzoia, Bungoma, and Kakamega. So we are expecting the governors from those areas, and it was likely, until now not confirmed, and maybe it will not be possible. The Senate Speaker of Kenya was supposed to attend, but now given this dynamic, he may not. As we speak now, I'm sitting next to one of the elders of Ramasava, who is the father of, for those who can remember, the vibrant Prime Minister of Kenya, Honorable Wetangula. As we speak now, I'm sitting next to the father of Honorable Wetangula.
Well, that's really very important. Could you just get us to speak to Mzee Wetangula, the father of the prominent Wetangula, the honorable that we all know? Can we just say mahalo to him?
That is not clear. Can you get back to us on that?
I'm only asking, is it possible for us to have an opportunity to say a word to Mzee Wetangula, because it's really important, and he comes to us at a time when we're also talking about the Building the Bridges initiative of Kenya, which I know he knows very well and very much so. Can he just say something to us, and also say something about the BBI of Kenya?
So what is the specific question you are putting to him about the BBI of Kenya?
No, we do not really have a very specific question, but what are his thoughts about the BBI, and does he think the BBI is actually a lasting solution to Kenya's problems that they've had to go through, especially after every election, as they also plan to have the elections come on next year?
So Mbale is asking about what you look at the BBI, what will it bring to people of Kenya?
I was an individual, and we talk of BBI. BBI, by the way it sounds, we bring all the people types, groups of Kenya and Uganda together. But when you look through the line, it says us mostly two major tribes in Kenya who call themselves the ruling power. And particularly, the founder of the independence in Kenya. That is the Kenyatta, the son of Kenyatta, our current president of Kenya, Uhuru, and the former Prime Minister, Election-centric, is Kenya, of being our Kenya. But as we look at it, the way as they say, we have been asking to get elected and bid for ourselves. We don't want to be surprised. We are even supposed to make it in the media. So, as they say, BPI, by itself, it is bringing people together.
Yeah, but what maybe I can share with him and our viewers out there is what does this BBI, is there anything for Masala that you think we can benefit from this BBI with the bigger context of the East African region?
Mm-hmm. We as the Bukusus of Kenya and the Bakiso of Uganda, we hope and have very high hope that BBI will bring us together so that we can have a discourse in the East African community. But as we look at it, it is too early to judge from saying whether BPI is going to benefit the producers or the left. But for themselves, So we say we are close to check we say young people have to given time, even as I'm talking, the deputy president of Kenya is at war, the next supporters of president. Yeah.
These are some of the ideas of the elder coming from across. Of course, the other people who will be arriving, I think, shortly before the service starts.
Finally, before we let you go, Ndugu Mututa, how old is the old man there?
Hello?
How old is the old man, Mzee Wetangula, the one you are with there?
The line is not clear, apparently. I don't know why. I'm not able to get some of the...
No, I was only asking, at the age of the old man, I'm only asking for the age of the old man. How old is he, Mzee Wetangula, the one you are with just right there where you are?
The line is not clear at all. He can't speak to you.
Okay, well, we will thank you so much, Ndugu James Mututa, for having allowed to speak to us, to give us that update. Barry is tomorrow, of course, and Ndugu Mututa is there, will keep us with the updates. Thank you so much, Mututa. Online from Mbale, it's raining, like he says, amazing. It's raining in Mbale, here is where we are, but Mzee Wetangula is the father of Moses Wetangula. Moses Masika Wetangula. What do you remember about him?
Well, Moses Wetangula was the Minister of Foreign Affairs actually during that turmoil, during the 2007. Yes. So at that time he was the Minister of Foreign Affairs, but also we see he was the first leader of minority in the Senate. Yeah, and actually he's one of the celebrated Wabukusu, and in these talks of really forging the Luhya unity, him and Mudavadi, and of course Kijana, Wamalwa, who is a brother to Wamalwa Kijana. Those being brought together by Atwoli. So like, look here, why don't we also come up together as people from the Luhya land and also support one of our own to ascend to presidency. But like what he said, the old man, if I heard him properly, that they are trying to see what is in the BBI for us, the Babukusu.
Exactly. Then of course the integration of East Africa.
So I think the integration of East Africa. So I think like BBI, just like any other laws, any other institutions, is as good as those who are going to implement it. Who are the implementers? Let me give a very good example in Nigeria, where you see the army used to interfere civilian role. So when Olusegun Obasanjo takes over power as a military leader, he bridges. He bridges the gap. He builds the bridge. He puts up the initiative of handing over power peacefully to the civilians. You get it? It's peacefully to the civilian. I think actually became the first military ruler to say, look here, no, we should give power peacefully to the civilians. But because it was a personal initiative, he did not
build the culture.
He did not actually mobilize the army to accept that, look here, this is we are supposed to stay in the barracks. If you want to join politics, you retire from the army. And just 3 years down the road, Buhari overthrows. Overthrows Al-Hajj, was it called Sharut or something like that? Okay? Buhari overthrows 3 years down the road. So that shows that every other time you come up with a building bridges initiative, you must mobilize your people. It must have an acceptance. People should be accepted. Okay? Now, years later, when San Abacha becomes president, of course, after taking over from Ibrahim Babangida. Yes, after that coup, he really comes in after Ibrahim Babangida. When he dies, General Abubakar was very clear. I'm a military man. I'm going to manage a transition of 9 months. And within those 9 months, I'm going to organize elections. So when he organizes elections, of course, Olusegun Obasanjo, people had the memory, said, look here, if he had the courtesy of handing over power peacefully, he retired from the army. I think he's the person we need. He's actually somebody who can, so he comes from prison. He is elected the first president of the Fourth Republic in Nigeria. Now, General Abubakar, I think we should credit General Abubakar, because since then, the army has not interfered with it. So implying that he, this time round, he learned from the mistakes of General Olusegun and said, look here, it is not about only handing over power to the civilians. It's not about bridging the gap, building a bridge between the civilians and the army, but it is also sensitizing these people so that everybody can know what role they are going to play, so that everybody can be satisfied in the new arrangement. So I think this is what is lacking.
Is Africa's problem elections? Because I think we normally, once we get into elections, is when we get these problems. Now, you remember what happened to Blaise Compaoré in Burkina Faso. Now, they also had these issues here and there until they actually brought in another man now, Marc Roch-Kabore, who was also elected at the end of last year. He was given another term of office, and when Marc Roch-Kabore was elected, he actually also had to call on, and these are the forces now. What is in that country, in Burkina Faso, you'll notice that there are militias almost everywhere. Now, you have a president in State House, but also you have an Akol who says Makinde is mine. You have the same things that we actually had here sometime, where you had the Kairas, you know, divide the country and everybody takes on whatever they want to take on. Now you have a country that is steadily growing and going on, and actually the recent report of Africa's countries that actually are growing economically very fast. It is one of those that are there. Now, you notice that these are again countries that are riddled by these internal conflicts because of many elections. And now Kenya got that problem out of an election, or because of an election. Now, everybody who's discussing the BBI in Kenya is saying, we are doing this because we know there's an election coming on. Now, the future for 2023 is actually uncertain. When we came into this election that we just concluded 2 weeks ago in this country, everybody was thinking maybe the end of Uganda is actually happening.
Was on 14th.
Was on 14th, you know. The doomsayers and quite a number of things. Now, some people are just now coming back to senses that, hey, you mean 14th went, and we're ending January. You know, we're starting February in some hours. And when you go to the other countries, recently in Tanzania, when they also had that election in October, the issues in Tanzania, you had lots of things. Now, they are past that level. Tanzania is different. Magufuli saying, tufanye kazi, let's go on. Now, and all the other countries, when you go to Ethiopia, when you go to these things, is it election that is our problems that pushes us to all these initiatives, BBI? We now talk about reconciliation here. We'll talk about dialogue the other day. In Uganda, we have the national, I think the national dialogue. The national dialogue. The national dialogue by the Inter-Religious Council of Uganda. They actually also wrote to the president and saying, after the January elections, please, we also need to convene and do a national dialogue to address this issue and that issue and that issue.
Actually, they have about 8 key areas.
They have about 8 key areas. Now Kenya's BBI has 9. We have 8. Other people come with a 7 and somewhere. Is it because of elections that we need to rethink the African setting?
No, I think in Africa, we need to do much in as far as elections is concerned. Because when you go to Kenya, they are Kenyans until an election. When an election comes in, it's when one remembers I'm a Kikuyu, I'm a Bukusu, I'm a Kalenjin, I'm a Luhya. That is when that comes in. Now, we also, when you come to Uganda, of course, the elections, we are always united. But when it comes to an election, that is now where you even see, even in parties, actually people are tearing themselves apart. Actually, this particular election has made matters worse for the opposition, because now the opposition is more divided than ever before. Because now you have FDC and DP are grappling that actually NUP came to
another opposition party.
Yes, came actually to destroy all our structures. So now that is also, so before we think of building bridges between the opposition and NRM, or between President Yoweri Museveni and Kyagulanyi. I think Kyagulanyi needs also to first build bridges within the opposition, so that by the time they say we are going to meet government, they should go as one force, just like how we saw in Kenya, that when Odinga and Uhuru Kenyatta meet, then everybody was supposed to go and mobilize their people so that they can support the initiative, which we are seeing, because ideally by that time Odinga was the leader of the opposition coalition. Here now we don't have such arrangement, but that is not to say that initiatives to bring the country together shouldn't be undertaken. We should have those initiatives of bringing people together. So in the case of Uganda, if we are to look at the BBI, I think if we should look at building bridges, we should go beyond the principles. We should go beyond the principles. We should look at what are those issues. What are those issues that we need to look at? Even within our own administrative arrangement. There are issues that need to be ironed out. For example, you have a member of parliament who represents 3 sub-counties, earning over 20 millions. But the chairperson, LOC3 sub-county, because we are electing them on 3rd, actually is getting peanuts. And is the person who is actually dealing with the people. Serving the people day to day. You see? So you have a whole chairperson, LOC5, whose district has about 4 or 5 constituencies, also earning peanuts. And yet he's actually supposed to serve a bigger geographical area. So I think also those are some of the issues that the BBI needs to address. You'd say, look here, these are issues that also we need to bring on board. Not looking at only the political players. So we have now the issue of the ghetto youth. Actually, now this issue of the ghetto is taking us back to the xenophobia in South Africa, because the xenophobia has been brought about by not handling the people in the ghetto. And I think in this particular term, NRM and President Yoweri Museveni should actually focus on that, the disadvantaged youth. How do we address their concern? Then the other issue of Buganda, because in these particular elections, actually, like somebody was saying, I think Buganda yekutude ku Uganda, you get it. But it means they are sending a message. The same thing you saw the voting in Busoga is their sugarcane. Where do they sell their sugarcane? Is the issue. How do they find market for their sugarcane? So these are, so BBI should not focus, the BBI in Uganda, the Building Bridges initiative in Uganda, if we are to have all the national dialogue, maybe if I can say that, should actually focus at those issues, the grievances of the people. How, not looking at the political class, maybe saying that we share power, we give them this, they take that. No, I think the one that can actually survive the test of time is one that is going to address the concerns, their issues of land. We also in this country have something that is unwritten, and that's the bipartisan arrangement. It's not written anywhere. Now the other day you saw the Honorable Kyagulanyi Ssentamu talking to his party MP elects and telling them that, I know this man is going to give you money, this man is going to give you cabinet positions, but I request that you do not pick them, you do not go with them. I only want you to give meaning to that. For example, we've, like I said, it's not written anywhere that there will be this now. What describes our politics or our democracies, I think, on the continent is the winner takes all syndrome. That when you win as a political party, now you'll see and hear the NRM saying, we have the majority in parliament, we have the majority for local council, we have the tyrant of numbers. We have the tyrant of numbers at all levels, everywhere. We have, out of these municipalities, we took 50% of those. Out of these so many sub-counties, we took all these. Out of all these special interest groups, we took all of them. Now there's that tyrant of numbers where winner takes all, and now there is that bipartisan arrangement which is actually not written anywhere, and which you would think also helps us if we are looking at this big thing called the national good that we are all moving towards. But when now the Honorable Kyagulanyi says we shouldn't get into these things. Now I am looking at Honorable Kyagulanyi being a principal head of Dr. Abedi Bwanika. In 2006, Abedi Bwanika was contesting for the presidency, and he had an opportunity to sit with President Museveni after that election, and he also submitted, he told the president some things that, yes, this is the time that we've been waiting for, and he looks at himself at that level. Now, today, he's a member of parliament elected under the National Unity Platform of
Robert Chagulanyi. But Robert Chagulanyi says, none of you should pick it up. I'm only thinking, what about if President Museveni looks into and says, if we got a minister from this and then we possibly got another from here and all the things, then the principal at Magere says, please don't. Now, where does that put us if we're trying to forge national unity and of course having the people going forward?
Yeah, Chagulanyi, he's going to find himself in a situation which was, which Ben Chwan afforded himself actually in the 60s, that he was the leader of the Democratic Party, but who was not a member of parliament. And the constitution was clear that to lead the opposition in parliament, you have to be a member of parliament. It is the same thing that happened to Dr. Kizza Besigye, and actually it's also the same thing that is happening to him. And now this is where the BBI in Kenya, because the BBI is suggesting that the second roundup should actually assume the role of leader of opposition in parliament. Actually, there should be a seat reserved for the person who comes second in the presidential election, so that he can lead the opposition in the House. I think that is, because now you're going to have some other person different from Chagulanyi leading the opposition in the House. You never know what his thoughts are, and perhaps how he wants to run business in the House. Then Chagulanyi also is going to have another challenge of ideally running a young party. I think should be one of the youngest parties. It's a young party. He's supposed to build structure.
A young party with some seasoned politician in it?
No, actually very few.
But some, I said some.
Okay,
some seasoned politicians.
They're actually a handful, extremely very few.
Yeah, but those,
because you have...
You're running a young party, but you need to manage the experienced politicians.
So you have the majority who are actually... I don't know how could damn it, but most of
political
them,
novices.
Most of them, they are even still surprised that they won elections. They are not even surprised. They are not even prepared for this win. Others came saying that I'm coming to challenge, and eventually they find themselves winning. So you even have those that you're having a young party, but on the other hand, you have
young politicians
who are even coming with that excitement into leadership. So by the time they settle down to work for people, 5 years are gone. And they have to get back to the electorates to account for the 5 years. So these are the challenges he has actually to handle as somebody leading a very, very young party. And in most cases, where such parties have won power, you've actually found that things are not working because of that. Yes.
Okay. Well, our time has run out, and Ndugu call. Finally, talk about the national dialogue here, where we've seen the national dialogue is being mooted by the Elders Forum, but also by the Intelligence Council of Uganda. Now, when you talk about the Intelligence Council of Uganda, it has 7 principles of the different religious sects in this country. And now, you already have a problem where politicians are crying foul that some of them have actually lost the election because of the influence of the clergy. When they talk about a national dialogue, will they be understood by these politicians who are actually now feeling that they are suffering the damage that the clergy caused to them?
Yes, a national dialogue is necessary. A national dialogue is necessary because when you look at the 8 actually laid out agendas, I think if we really addressed them, that would be solving part of Uganda's problems. Because when you say we need the national consensus on values as a country, what are our values? Do we have shared values? Do we need the consensus on constitutionalism? We all agreed, we all believe in the constitution that we have. So these are some of the things that we really need to look at. So when you look at the 8 agendas of the national dialogue, and the way it is structured, it is not a one-off. It is one agenda, tackling one agenda after the other, and it will be a structured discussion. And I believe by the time we exhaust all the 8 agendas, because there's also the issue of land, which is very, very, very actually key.
Will the players, the other side, understand? Yes. Because like I said, you have the Catholic Church, for example, that has been castigated to have been so partisan in this particular election. Now, when you're discussing land, you're discussing about other things, but then these other political players are looking at the Catholic Church and saying, but you cost us an election. So why pretending to actually even come into a dialogue?
Yeah, and actually that's why the dialogue is necessary. necessary, so that they should understand why perhaps the Catholic Church, they acted that way. So that
part of the Catholic Church, not entirely Catholic Church.
Part of
the Catholic Church.
So that also they can know that, look here, but if you are a referee, you don't need to get into the game, because we expect that the religious leaders are actually supposed to be observers. Yes, so we said no, so that also they can understand their role. So that's why we need a dialogue.
Okay. Well, I want to thank you so much, Ndugu Akola Mazima. Time has run out, and of course thanking Mututa James, who is in Mbale, who has also given us some updates on the barrier arrangements of the Umukuka Weba Masava, Bob Mushikori. He died on the 4th. He'll be laid to rest tomorrow in Bududa district. That's where he'll be. And well, to just thank you so much for being part of Pan-African Friday today, and of course thanking you for being part of Good Morning Uganda, special Friday, where our team was at Hotel International in Mienga. From us to you, we just want to wish you all the best, and we'll return next week on Friday. But remind you that on the 3rd is another election, which is final, adult suffrage for all of us to go and again vote for our leaders.
At sub-county level.
At sub-county levels. Let's go do that on the 3rd, as we also crown and close that particular exercise for the roadmap for 2021. My name is Jagan Nasemakola Ziksoka. Wishing you all the best. Good morning and bye for today. Thank you.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda Extra.